Good morning, good evening, as the case may be, all around the world. And today we have Kwun Yeung from Forbole and Desmos. But before we get to Kwun, I just want to take a quick minute to thank our sponsors, Sommelier.Finance. Please go to app.sommelier.finance for the easiest way to add liquidity to Uniswap V3. We've got a lot of exciting announcements coming with mainnet next week on Tuesday. I think I said last week that it was going to be this week, but we had a small bug in Genesis that caused us to push it back. So mainnet next week, and lots of exciting product announcements coming there. So very, very exciting. And also on a similar time frame, with a lot of exciting announcements coming up soon, is OmniFlix.network. Please go to OmniFlix.network to check out what Sisla and the team have been building there. It's really cool and very impressive. It's a full-featured content management system with integrated NFT minting and issuance support built on top of Cosmos. They're going to be, they're in the middle of test nets right now and will be coming live here soon. So a lot of exciting milestones coming up for OmniFlix. All right. Well, with that, Kwun, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Do you want to give folks a little bit of an introduction and tell them what you're working on over at Forbole and Desmos?
Yeah, I'm Kwun, and then I'm the co-founder of Forbole. We have been in the industry since 2017, and then we are a validator on Cosmos Hub and different Cosmos networks, and also validators on some other different chains. We are the creator of Big Dipper, and then we this week we just launched Desmos mainnet, and then it's a network for decentralized social network.
Awesome. So that's a great summary. And you started by saying that you got into the industry in 2017, but I know that you've been thinking about this problem of decentralizing social media for longer than that. When did you kind of start working on that problem, and what prompted that?
Actually, Terrence and I have been in partnership for around 11 years. Yeah, so back in 2000.
That's a good partner right there.
Yeah, right. And then so we were in the digital marketing industry, and then so we help our clients, a lot of brands, to think a lot of user journey, user experience thing, and then how to create an app or website or some interactive applications that attract the users to use them, and then also to track the behavior of the users. So we understand how social media work. I understand actually they are not social media; they are actually advertising platforms. So we were doing a lot of things to help the customers and also Facebook, Google, to steal the information from the end users. And then in 2014 or 15 maybe, and then we thought, could there be a way that we could disrupt that kind of social media? So because social media, social network have not been really connecting people, but actually help connecting people, right? But it also stealing information from the end users and help those companies like Google, Facebook to be, they earn a lot of money, but they are not rebating them to the end users. So we thought we could, if that's possible, we would like to disrupt that industry. But until we learned about blockchain in 2017, and then we met Cosmos, we learned about Cosmos SDK, then we thought it could be a solution. And then we start thinking how to create a platform or a network that could be a decentralized social network.
A few things about what you just said. Not only are these social networks taking all of your data and making a ton of money off of it, they're also very quickly becoming a vector for social control for governments and sort of established power structures. Yeah. And I think that what you've seen where you live over that time period is very indicative of that. For the folks who don't know, Kwun is in Hong Kong, and I think we all know what the last few years have looked like in Hong Kong, and still fighting the good fight, I might add. So awesome. So, you guys were working on social media for a while and saw the issues with it and wanted to sort of change that. And I think, you and I met on some of the first Cosmos Hub testnets, which is pretty cool. And that's when you guys started Forbole, the validator. So tell me a little bit more about the genesis of that and like how you guys came into crypto, because like it's weird here.
So we were actually comparatively late in crypto. I mean, like we learned about blockchain in 2017, and then we learned about Cosmos SDK, and then we started thinking to build a network using Cosmos SDK. And then I was still very, like I knew nothing about blockchain. I knew nothing about decentralized network, and then when I read the the articles about Cosmos and Tendermint Core, I figured out that there is a term called validator, and I didn't know what is validator. And then I realized that if we have to build a network, then we need validators. So and then I didn't know how to find any validators, right? So the only
there wasn't any information on that back then.
Right.
That was when we were like, how do we find validators? And it was like, well, maybe people who do DevOps want to run services.
And then then the only thing that I could do is to jump into the Cosmos Riot chat and then ask questions.
That Riot chat.
I started asking questions. I started chatting with people, and then I started learning how to be a validator. Then I started like running validator for the testnets, and I started writing some articles and helping people in the chat. So this is how we started the journey of validator. I still remember that. I think it was in June, maybe May or June. I don't remember. June 2018, probably. There was an interview from Django, from Django, yeah. And then one question was like, how we going to have a business model for validator? And then I answered that I didn't know. I had no idea how validator could run for a business. And then gradually we started learning more, and then there was a hackathon 3, and then I submitted Brick Dipper as and then we got a place, and then this is how I think that's how people started learning about Forbole.
I think Big Dipper is also how a lot of people have learned about Cosmos as well. The most widely used open source block explorer that pretty much every chain that's launched in the ecosystem started with a Big Dipper instance as their first explorer, I think.
Yeah. I'm pretty happy with that. I think maybe, so at the very beginning, I wanted to build a very simple, easy to deploy explorer that we can just plug it to the RPC and the API node, and then we can just get all the blocks, all the transactions like that. And then Cosmos Hub launched, and then we became the Genesis validator. Of course, we joined the Game of Six as well, and then so a lot of different proof of stake chains, they would like to look for validators, and then they all came to Cosmos Hub to take a look. There are validators on Cosmos Hub. So who are they? And then they started contacting us and then asked us for being a validator. Yeah.
One of the things that we really worked hard to do, and I think was critical to building up that early validator community, was we worked really hard to make a nice user experience for you guys and make it easy to run those validators. How does Cosmos, because you guys now validate on a number of other chains. I think you guys are on maybe Polkadot and a couple of other proof of stake networks now too. How does the experience of running a Cosmos node or a Cosmos validator compare to validating on some of these other networks?
I think a lot of folks would agree that running a validator on Cosmos chains is a lot easier than other chains. Yeah, because what you have to care, I think, is a lot simpler than other chains. Like, although there are some some aspects that I think we can improve on the Cosmos SDK side, but I think it's pretty easy.
I'm interested to know what aspects you think we could improve, because we can always make it better.
Like the consensus key, we cannot change the consensus key, right? I think Validator would like to rotate keys and make the keys disposable, right? So that's one thing I think for validating Cosmos chains, and like maybe this selection of validator set. So why is there a way that we can randomly select validators from the candidates rather than only selecting the top 100 or 150 validators? So some mechanics from some other chains, maybe we can think how to incorporate into Cosmos SDK.
So you're saying that all of the bonded validators would have an equal chance to participate in consensus?
Yeah, but we have to think how to balance the bonded tokens, make sure that the bonded ratio is secured enough, right? And rather than just those top validators keep earning a lot, but like some validators is waiting behind, they don't get anything, and then they just keep waiting.
Yeah, that would be an interesting improvement. Consensus key rotation is one of those features that's sort of comes up over and over again, and people love. I think that with the auth-z module in the new upgrade, we should be able to have sort of generic key delegation for all accounts, which is going to be a huge feature. It'll be interesting to see how the groups module works. Maybe you could have a validator. Maybe you could have a validator that's run by a group.
Yeah, exactly.
Which would also be extremely interesting.
Yeah.
And I think the combination of groups and auth-z is about the most powerful DAO tooling that exists on any chain at this point. So I'm very excited to see that launch in Cosmos.
We are also thinking how we can use the auth-z and the group modules to create some dApps on Desmos as well. Like different people they can create a group, and then like there is a group moderator, and then so like it's authorizing different keys to help other members to modules and posts on Desmos, like that, something like that.
Yeah, I think that with the sort of native social features that you guys have been working on, Desmos might actually be the best spot to test out and work with that groups module, because not only do you have native support for the ability for a group to vote on proposals and to delegate actions to individuals to perform them. That's an extremely powerful DAO toolkit. You guys also have on-chain the native reputation system and linked social accounts and things like that. That's a really powerful combination for not only DAO creation and for DAO creation as well as management. So I'm really excited to see that suite.
Yeah. And we have launched the mainnet, Desmos mainnet on 31st of August. So currently we have the Desmos profile deployed, and then Desmos profile is like a decentralized social profile that we can link different social networks onto Desmos, and then we can also verify different public key on different chains.
That's similar to the feature in Keybase, where you can associate you're signing over information about your social media accounts and proving that you own them, and that helps sort of create this like web of trust where you have Twitter verifying your identity, you have Facebook verifying your identity, you have these other services verifying your identity. And by tying together all of those identities with a single public key, you can say, hey, this is me online. And it allows for sort of better trust. I think that's a really great model. And I'm glad you guys have it implemented.
Right. So it's like, and then it can link to different chain public keys. So it's like we can identify that this profile belongs to a key on Cosmos Hub, which is a delegator of a certain validator, right? And then also we can say that, hey, this is a profile of a validator. Then and then when we build some social dApps around the social profile, then we can prove that this is the delegator of a certain validator, right? They can chat, and then we can prove that without showing our true identity. We don't even have to say we don't even have to exchange emails, right? So this is the current feature of Desmos. So, and then we are looking to we are going to release a staking platform that is we call it the Forbole X. That the first network support will be Desmos, and then we are going to deploy we're going to deploy the social profile feature on X. And currently we are running the new Big Dipper on Desmos as well, and the new Big Dipper has these Desmos profile support. So if a user is already having a social profile, Desmos profile on his account on Desmos, then we can see the profile on the Pro Explorer. And so this is like the first step of what we are doing on Desmos. And then going forward, we are going to deploy more modules on Desmos. I think
I just want to back up real quick because it sounds like that feature in the Block Explorer, once you make the Block Explorer profile aware, you can add support for that profile across all kinds of other chains as you roll out support for the new Block Explorer.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Then, like, for example, if we deployed an Explorer for Cosmos Hub, and then if the Cosmos Hub address has linked to a Desmos profile, then we can show that Desmos profile on the Explorer on Cosmos Hub. Then we know that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea a lot. Are you guys going to do it where it's the address bytes, not the full address, so that like your Desmos address will be across all of the chains? Yeah, that's the way to go. That's going to be a very cool feature.
Where we can have a source of truth for all the public key from different chains to verify that this is certain validator. This is Jack, all right. This is Pylon, right. And then you don't have
Strangelove now. We rebranded.
All right. Okay. All right. So anyway, Jack, and so like I think like 2 years ago, I saw that a lot of users were using your head, your image, your profile picture on the testnet, and then even on some mainnet that imposter to be you. So I think this is a way that we can identify someone in decentralized world.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. You know, there's actually a lot of projects that have started to try to do this. I always think of Starname. I worked at a project called Blockstack that was doing decentralized identity on top of Bitcoin. And funny enough, the first Hong Kong crypto person I met was there. Larry was an American expat, still there, I believe. Lives in Hong Kong. I don't know if you know him. He's very active in the Bitcoin meetups there. But, you know, this problem of how to bootstrap these identity solutions, I think is a very interesting one and going to become increasingly important. Because as we move out of this initial phase of crypto user experience where folks like you and me are comfortable with address hashes and all of this stuff, to really scale this to the next couple of billion people, we need to develop better solutions, being able to put human readable identifiers in front of these addresses, link many of them together, provide these coherent experiences across many different blockchains. And like, obviously that's the world that Cosmos wants to live in, but, and is like, we're very rapidly approaching that world. But the question of how to bootstrap an identity solution and how to get people to adopt it has always been kind of unclear for me. And many of the ones that I've seen are either sort of a federated identity or something like that. I think that building it natively into a block explorer as a way to bootstrap with this initial community, and also new folks who are coming in who want to like figure out information about these different blockchains will naturally go to these block explorers. That is a really defensible and interesting way to increase adoption there. I'm really interested to see this product. So I will be creating a Desmos. Can I create a Desmos name today?
Yeah. If you have DSM, you have the Desmos token, then you can create a Desmos profile.
Where do I get my DSM? On Osmo? Okay, cool. Well, I will check that out. Are you guys going to be listed on Osmosis and Ameris?
And then like, and we are launching a staking platform, ForboX, and then we are going to integrate Desmos profile and ForboX as well. And then Forbole, we are planning an airdrop. It's like if you use ForboX, and then you can use ForboX to create your Desmos profile. And then if we are still thinking about that, maybe at a certain time you were already a delegator of Forbole on Cosmos, on Iris, or on other networks, and then if you link that public key to the Desmos profile, we will drop you some DSM. So this is a way that we can bootstrap the users.
I think that's a really good idea, and I would go so far as to say other things that you could incentivize with that airdrop program, getting people to link their various social media accounts to their Desmos profile.
Yeah.
Like, because that's really how you're going to reach a ton more people. That was a really effective technique at Blockstack, because Blockstack had kind of a similar feature in their browser, but it didn't really go anywhere, which was kind of the issue. And like what I think is different about what you're offering is it's not just this identity solution. It's not just this link things together solution. It's like we're providing additional value beyond just that, helping secure your accounts, showing your accounts across many chains, like these kinds of things. You're offering those features out of the box as opposed to saying, hey, we built this identity solution in search of a problem, and it's going to be here, and like we'll figure out what the utility of it is. You're saying,
right,
we need utility from day one. We're going to offer that to users, and this is how we're going to bootstrap the network. And the identity solution is just sort of table stakes. It's funny. It's similar to the way that we have tried to think about the bridge with Sommelier. Like, a bridge is a bridge, and like there's many bridges to nowhere. So like, why does this bridge exist? What additional value do we bring, and how do we ensure that this is something that users want? And I think that way of thinking about products is really critical.
Yeah, and then we think that this is a way we could draw more attention, and then move some users from different networks, including traditional social network and different accounts from different blockchains, onto Desmos. And then we're actually using the wallet to draw a group of people using that app. And then with those users, we can keep delivering new features on the wallet. Like step one, you create the profile, and then when we upgrade the chain, we deploy a new feature on the wallet. You can start talking, and then maybe you can start like giving a thumb up, right? And then maybe after that, you can start playing a game on the wallet. Because I always think like the structure on Desmos currently, what we are going to deploy is actually very favorable some turn-based game. Like, I send a message to the chain, and then it's like starting a game. And then you reply my message. That is the first step. And I make a reply to your reply. It's like I'm taking the second step. So I believe there will be a lot of different formats of social apps that we can use on Desmos.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think that when you pair these social experiences with this ability to manage like real amounts of funds with these sort of DAO-like features, that's a really net new social media experience. That's like social media plus money, which is the platforms have sort of sucked all of the money out of these communities, and they haven't let the communities manage any of their own money. And this is going to be a fundamental differentiator.
Yeah.
And when you see, large protest movements across the world that have been empowered by social media, they have not been empowered with the sort of like how to collect money and pay people. And they've had to sort of hack around the traditional financial system. So it will be very interesting to see how this ends up getting used.
And then I think if we start connecting some crypto people, we believe that a lot of them actually understand the importance of pseudo-anonymous. And then I think I would like to see if we can like educate people to create a social profile that is actually pseudo-anonymous, but they don't have to use their real identity like what we have to do on Facebook, right? And the network will be censorship free, and then with censorship free, and then if you can use a pseudo anonymous social identity, you can really have the freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're still afraid of some censorship or some external forces that would peg you somewhere which you don't know. You're still scared.
Yeah. And very legitimately, it's this question of anonymity and the efficacy of it, I think, is one of the more interesting debates of our time.
Yeah.
And it really gets down to the core of what freedom of speech actually is and what freedom of speech is actually meant to protect. And what it's actually meant to protect is things that you and I probably disagree with. Because if there's a lot of people who disagree with something, their right to be protected, their right to say that and to have those discussions should be protected. Even though it might be terrible. And, I think that this is the core of the debate over cryptography that we're having again as a society. I think, in the US, especially right now, I think that conversation is really strong with the actions that are being taken by a lot of regulatory agencies. And, with Apple recently releasing this CSM scanning and if we want our rights, we have to build the systems to maintain them. And Desmos and, what we're building at Cosmos is very much systems to maintain those rights. And I think that, that's cool.
Thanks.
So a couple of audience questions here, some predictable ones. Clap emoji, rocket, fire. So I'm assuming that means wind moon. But the next question down there, will there be any incentivized pools on Osmo and Imerys to acquire some Desmos? And I guess that sort of comes with my question of when IBC.
Yeah, there will be, but we are still planning. Yeah, there will.
Okay. One thing that I do want to, I want to plug a little bit of my work today too. And Cecil, maybe you can toss this up in the chat. I've been working I wanted to get your feedback on whether or not this is something you would want to use as a zone. I've been working on a feature for the hub to enable multi-hop IBC20 transfers between multiple different chains. Mm-hmm. So for you guys, if you wanted to be available via IBC on all of the various chains in the interchain, all you would have to do is open one connection with the hub.
Right.
And then you could route packets through the hub to Osmosis, to Terra, to Thorchain, to wherever. I think that the way that I have it configured, the hub could take a small governance configurable fee out of the packet to pay for the service. And we would initially at the hub set that to 0 to help bring folks in. Is that something you'd be interested in using at Desmos?
Yeah, I think so. And then I think this is, I think this feature is actually giving a purpose to the hub as well.
I think so too. This idea of IBC as this sort of broader interchain, and this idea of all of these connected blockchains making one coherent network is what really, I think, it's something we've talked about in the past before. And I know that you find this a really cool cool part about Cosmos. And I think that the people who build this software and work on it think that too. And we spent all this time getting IBC, and because we're engineers, we were like, we got to make this MVP and we got to ship it. And we shipped without a bunch of features. And one of those features was this sort of router-like functionality, or this sort of multi-hub-like functionality. And it is really the core of the value prop of the hub in a lot of ways. What is the hub meant to do? It's meant to offer programmatic services to the interchain. Right. And I think that, especially at the beginning of the project, when none of this technology was real, it was so far out that people were like, that use case is never going to materialize. You people are crazy. And now that we're here, people have been saying that for so long, it's like taken us a little while to think like, hey, with this technology we built, it's actually only like a 200-line PR to enable routing on the hub. It's like, oh, well, that's a very different world. And like getting out, like the hub has the Dex now, and like we're bringing the gravity bridge to the hub, hopefully, and all of these other features. Yeah. Oh, I know. That's a whole drama.
I didn't say anything.
But you just laughed, which is the only response. It's I think now is the time to start providing these interchain services as the hub. And it's for people like yourself. You're sitting there and you're like, do I enable IBC? And you're like, fuck, I got to make all these connections to all these blockchains. Exactly. We got to run all these relayers. And like, you run infrastructure, you know how much of a pain in the neck this is.
Yeah.
Desmos is a perfect example of a zone that would benefit greatly from this feature. And what I'm going to do is I've got the demo that we built this week. I've got a full PR there was a sort of format change I needed to make to the PR. And this is it down here. And I think I'm going to put up a governance proposal next week to see if we can get it into the next upgrade. So be on the lookout for that. And will Forbole be voting yes on the governance proposal?
We have to review the code first.
Oh, yeah, you do. I'm sure you do. Awesome. Well, okay. Adrian Fague? I have no idea how to pronounce that. Adrian, sorry, I mispronounced your name. Any key dates to remember with Desmos? You guys just had mainnet launch, so maybe nothing big coming up right now? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There is a live network.
We don't have inflation during launch, so we are going to submit a proposal to turn on inflation, and then maybe that would be the next key date.
Well, that's actually a really interesting idea. So I think I understand why you did this, but why did you launch with inflation disabled? Because
we are Genesis validator on Cosmos Hub, so we witness how the navigation changes affect the reward distribution at the early stage. And then we have to educate some investors and some crypto holders, DSM holders, to stake at the very beginning.
Yeah.
We prefer to set zero inflation at launch, and then when we have to choose the Forbole, the staking to ready, and then we have enough communication with the DSM holders, then we submit a proposal. We ask them to stake, and also the foundation is going to delegate to the validators. Then we have a very good shape of the staking ratio that we turn on the inflation.
Yeah. So this is really interesting. So like if we step, like another way to describe this is at the beginning of the network, the amount of tokens staked is very small compared to total supply. So, if you think like 1% to 2% of total supply is the only amount staked, and you have 20% inflation on the total supply that's getting distributed to 2% of the total supply, your real APYs during that initial network bootstrapping period where we're sort of growing that staking ratio are insane. And there's, a lot of people think sort of undue rewards to those folks who are early in the network. And what you're doing is trying to make it a little bit more fair stabilize the staking ratio before with, because people are going to stake these things. A lot of people buy these things to participate long-term in the network. They want to stake. They want to do that. So making it a little bit more fair to give people a couple of weeks to bring that stake into the network before we turn on inflation and create this kind of gold rush situation, which ends up happening. Saw it with Osmosis, saw it with the Cosmos Hub.
Right.
I've seen it with basically every thing happening. I saw the Juno folks talking about this, and it sounds like Juno is planning to do this as well. I don't know if that's finalized.
So actually, I like the idea from the staking changes idea from Solana. So they they won't let the staking ratio fluctuate too much in every epoch, so that maybe when there is a high number of stake is going to delegate into the network, it takes 4 epochs to fully delegate it to the network. And then there's a warm-up period, and they have a cool-down period as well. So if you have to unstake a large amount of stake, it may take 4 epochs.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that feature. That's very interesting. Pavan asks, is there any airdrop yes. I think earlier we might have sort of brushed past it in a really monotone voice and played cool about it. But Kwun did say that he is going to be airdropping some tokens to existing Forbole delegators, as well as folks who were using Desmos in the early days. So get out there, use Desmos. Kwun, where is the link? Like, I need to go register a name, and I'm going to have to hit you up for some DSM tokens. That's the truth. App.desmos.network?
No. Like, we have x.forbole.com, but we are going to announce that later. And when you have a Desmos account, I can send you some DSM tests to try.
Well, where's the front end where I go check it out?
We haven't announced that yet, but wait for our announcement. We will have a that you can create an account for that.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, I will wait for the announcement on that, and I guess that would be the date that I think is most exciting, and I would guess that, like a true cosmonaut, the date on that is TBD.
I'm sorry.
Is the date on the launching of the staking platform not public yet?
Not public yet, because we are doing some final testing. Actually, like 99% ready, but we just want to make sure that the end users can do that very smoothly. And then
awesome. Well, if you need any beta users, hit me up.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Kwun, thank you very much for joining us today. It was a blast talking a lot more about Forbole and Desmos and learning a bit more about what you're up to. And before we go today, again, thank you to our sponsors, Sommelier Finance and OmniFlix.network. Please go check them out. And Kwun, see you around the Validator chats, bud.
Thanks. Bye-bye.